This book here, published, I mean, has brought in 8 figures in sales,
Mhm.
and brought in about roughly 7 million over the last 12 months. We've just kept learning and iterating, and all of that typically comes back to using a book as a 7-figure business card and building funnels that utilize the book to drive sales.
Hello there. Welcome to the next episode of the Goal Crazy podcast. I'm your host, Jason VanDevere, and today I have with me Chandler Boldt. And I'm super excited to have Chandler on because he's the CEO of selfpublishing.com. And that's the company that I use to help me write my book, edit my book, publish my book, and make it a #1 Amazon best-selling book. So awesome company. And what I'm really curious to have him on is he was able to grow that company from zero to over $75 million in revenue in under 10 years. So great person to learn from. Chandler, welcome to the show.
Jason, great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. We want more Jasons in our world. You are so fun to work with. It's fun seeing the success of your book, your planners, your business. You're a fun guy to root for, man. So appreciate you
Hey,
having me here.
thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to start with a question that I heard you ask a lot of times. Why books?
Mm, books. I mean, for me, they changed my life. I
Yeah.
was a college dropout, C-level English student, ADHD person who hated reading and hated writing. But then I realized that all of the solutions to my problems were in books. And people
Mm,
smarter, more successful than me had
mhm.
taken their life's work. I mean, if you think about it, a book's a $15 mentor. You can learn the best things that you want to know from the people who are the most successful people on the planet. And they've taken years in most cases to distill the best things that they know. And so that's when I really kind of opened up to books as a reader, as I realized they were the solution to all of my problems. And when I dropped out, I had a lot of problems. Still have a lot of problems in my
Yeah.
business. But then I realized as I published books, wow, these changed my life as an author. And so books changed my life as a reader, as an author. And so we believe that books change lives. We believe that they create leveraged impact. You do work once, you create this book, the book goes on to impact a ton of people. And so that's why I'm super passionate about it.
Yeah. That's good. Oh, I've had plenty of books change my life. I mean, reading your book published is what really led me to write my own book as an example of that. When do you feel like it was put on your heart, your mind to write your own book? And what drew you? It's a pretty hard journey. I went through it. So, like, what was that driving string to get you through it?
I'll never forget, it started with a phone call with my
Okay.
brother, and so I was in college, and I realized once I got to college that there were all these things that my parents taught me growing up that I thought was normal, and then I got out in the real world and realized that no one gets taught this stuff, and so I remember never forget being on this phone call with my brother, and I'm telling him about this, and he said, "Oh, yeah, I had the same exact experience." And so he said, "We should write a book on these 15 things." And so eventually we decided to do that. We wrote a book on those 15 things, and it was his perspective as a musician, my perspective as a business guy on these same 15 things. And so it started as just kind of this fun project. It evolved into a full-blown book that we ended up publishing as a project for charity. But there was no big vision. I mean, this was not something I dreamed about. This is not something that I thought I would do growing up. I think like most people, it came out of a need to share something that I felt would be helpful for other people. And so that's what we did. And that started kind of this whole journey that ultimately led to, publishing a few thousand books with selfpublishing.com.
Yeah, that's neat. Can you share? I mean, I don't need all 15. Could you share a couple of those principles? Because look, I've got to learn. Maybe I'm like the other people who are just average over here, and I got to switch lanes.
Yeah, I mean, you're way better than average, Jason, but I appreciate the humility. I mean, gosh, it's been a hot minute. The book's called Breaking Out of a Broken System, and there were
Yeah.
things like betting on yourself and creating an LLC, and whether you have a business or not, you should have an LLC because it's really good for
Mm,
taxes. There's the power of what we call many, many successes. So MANY, MINI successes. So basically having a bunch of small wins and how
mm,
they just pushed us to do new and different things, and then that led to a bunch of failure, but it ultimately led to a lot of wins. It's so there's a bunch of stuff like that of not taking the traditional path. I mean, that's what the whole book's about, is breaking out of a broken system. The system is
Mhm.
broken that we are all kind of indoctrinated into. You can order off the menu. And so my brother did that. He kind of led the way for that in our family, being a, rock and roll musician and being nominated for a Grammy. And he was doing 81 shows with Taylor Swift as I was, or as I was graduating from high school. And so, I mean, he just shattered what was possible. And then I kind of followed in his footsteps. But it all centered around these things, kind of a non-traditional parenting approach, I guess, from our parents, who just said, hey, the generational stuff stops here. We're going to pave a new path for our family moving forward. And so they poured that into us. And then we've been implementing that kind of ever since, trying to make them proud.
Dang, that's cool. All right, well, you just sold me your other book because it's I know that was the premise of it. But all right, so then help bridge the gap from you read this book. At some point, you start selfpublishing.com to help other people start publishing their books. Kind of bridge that part of the story for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's about 7 years of the story. I mean, I published a couple books. Those did decently well. People started asking, "How are you doing this?" And so we decided to start teaching it. And at first, it was just for free on ad hoc phone calls, and that seemed to be helpful for people. So then we said, "Hey, let's sell it." So then we signed up our first cohort of 44 people. 60% of those folks published a book within 6 months. That was pretty crazy. That was called the best-selling book system. But then we realized the acronym for this is BSBS. That's really dumb.
Yeah.
Who wants to sign up for the BSBS? So then we ultimately became Self-Publishing School, and in Self-Publishing School, I mean, did millions of dollars in sales, published thousands of books, and then eventually purchased selfpublishing.com and started publishing content there and just kind of innovating and helping more authors in that way. And we realized that our smartest, most successful people didn't want to be called students and they didn't want to go to school. And so, so meanwhile, selfpublishing.com was really growing. Self-publishing school was too, but we just said, hey, if we want to own the entire self-publishing space, well, we own the URL. Why not just rebrand as the company? And so that's what we decided to do. And so we rebranded as selfpublishing.com and have kind of been scaling and growing since then.
Hmm, that's interesting. Because was selfpublishing.com really a business before you bought it, or was it just a domain that you were buying?
Yeah, yes, it was a business that
Hmm.
existed for a long time. I think they had 105 million books in print or something crazy like that. And but at the time that we bought it, we just bought it as an asset purchase. And so we didn't buy the business itself. We bought the asset of the domain, which was really just the URL because it looked like it was designed in Microsoft Paint. I mean, there was nothing there. There was no traffic. We had to redo everything and build it from scratch essentially.
Yeah.
There was some good backlinks and kind of old school stuff that was there, but uh, 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 we just basically bought it from nothing. But it did come with an email list of I think close to 100,000 people, so that was pretty nice. And so those two core assets we kind of built up really just as a customer acquisition arm for self-publishing school. And it started getting traction enough to where it started doing 50, 75, 150 grand a month and customers for self-publishing school from selfpublishing.com. And so that was kind of part of the proof of concept. And just, I mean, at the end of the day, we didn't rebrand it just because of that. It was a strategic move to say, all right, we're trying to plant our flag and on the whole self-publishing space.
Yeah. That's neat. That's neat. Well, when I think one of the things that you become an expert on, which I'm curious and maybe even selfishly curious to learn about this, is building a sales funnel on the back end of a book. And when did you start to realize the opportunity that a book had? Because if I'm following this story correctly, none of this would have been possible without a book. Like that's kind of been your growth engine for this, or maybe it started that way and it changed, or how does that fit into the sales funnel as you see it?
Yeah. All of my biggest business breakthroughs happened on the
Hmm.
other side of a book. And
Yeah.
so early on, it was The Productive Person, one of the first books that I published. I mean, that started making thousands of dollars a month in royalties. It's really paid the bills when I dropped out of school. I mean, it was pretty wild how all that kinda happened, and then but then there were other books, and I think, we were talking about kinda before then, the difference between a five-figure book, a six-figure book, a seven-figure book, and
Hmm.
an eight-figure book. I've had books that did each of those amounts,
Yeah.
and you just you kinda learn and iterate, and so my book Launch, that book, I mean, was a massive, massive growth tool for self-publishing school. I mean, we launched self-publishing school on the back end of that book and went from 0 to $1.32 million in sales over the next 11 months or so. This book here, published, I mean, has brought in 8 figures in sales,
Hmm.
and brought in about roughly 7 million over the last 12 months. And so we just kept learning and iterating, and all of that typically comes back to using a book as a seven-figure business card and building funnels that utilize the book to drive sales, and growth in the business.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, well, that's what I want to dive into here. So let's talk about because maybe my audience is familiar with how the whole sales funnel works from book to paying client, but let's maybe break this into three sections here. How can somebody use a book to get to six figures? And what are the key things they got to focus on to get from six to seven figures and then from seven to eight figures? So let's start with how does an author use their book to generate six figures in revenue? What's that sales funnel look like?
Yeah. So to get to six figures from your book, I mean, talk about kind of the core pillars, and then we'll reverse engineer the math. And so
I
we
love
just
it.
did
Yeah.
this series on our YouTube channel. People can check it out if they want. It's called the Millionaire Author Plan. And so it all starts with is there's kind of a series of videos, which is okay, you need to write. Well, first you need to pick a seven-figure idea. So this is an idea
Okay.
that has traction and legs. Then you need to write a book that turns readers into paying customers. That's kind of the second part of the process. The second video, the third video is the six-figure launch. So I like to figure out, hey, how can we do six figures in business revenue from the book launch? And then the fourth video in that series is turning into a seven-figure business card, right? So that's kind of the core premise. So you got to have, I mean, I think for starters, if you're just trying to make money off of the book royalties, well, that's not really a great plan unless you're James
Mhm.
Clear or somebody else. I mean, it, it, it is possible, but it's not a likely path. And so I am always thinking about how do I make sure that I have a business on the back end of the book that this book
Mhm.
is flowing into. And so, and so I think that is you don't have to have that to get to six figures. You I mean, you pretty much have to
It'll
have
be
it
a
if
lot
you're gonna get to
easier.
se yeah, 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 I mean, it'll be a lot easier for sure, but you pretty much have to have that if you're gonna get to seven figures, and definitely if you're gonna get to eight.
All right, so this is where a lot of people get stuck. It's not that they don't want to launch a business, it's that they haven't found the right business idea or they don't know how to get their current idea off the ground. And that's why I created a free training that'll walk you step by step through this process to discover your perfect business idea, validate that it's a winner, and get it launched this year. You can access that training at goalcrazy.com/free training. All right, let's get back into the episode.
Um, so let's talk six figures. So, I mean, at the core kind of underpinning of everything that we teach is use the book to get lead sales and referrals. So how do I use that to get more leads, cheaper leads, free leads, or in a lot of cases, get paid to get leads because people buy the book and they opt in for your stuff, right? Then more sales. How do I integrate that in the sales funnels that I already have and the sales process that I already have? And then more referrals. Well, if you've got an existing customer base, which I think you've probably got an unfair advantage for this, well, then the first thing I would do is I would just go back to all of those folks and say, hey, I want to give you a copy of the book and go here and here's how you do it, right? Or I might even consider if this is where you kind of customize the strategy based on your average order value. Because if your average order value is lower, and I think what I understand about your business, it is a little bit lower because you're selling a ton of planners, right? Well, then it doesn't make sense to say, hey, we're going to ship a $7 book to every past customer. I mean, you might go bankrupt with that strategy.
Mhm. I could
It's,
give them
it's a,
all an audiobook or,
exactly, exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Now, but if I had a $10,000 package, or if my average order value is 50,000 or 100,000 or anywhere in between, I would probably advocate for shipping all of those folks a physical copy of the book and saying, I'd love to work with you again. Here's how to do that. I'd love to work with someone who needs our help. Here's how to do that. Right. And I would maybe even send their friends copies of your book to help with the referrals. Right. But so it all comes back to that lead sales referrals. And so that's kind of the underpinning. But if we're talking about a 6-figure launch, well, what's an average customer worth for you?
Coaching client, probably $3,500 to $5,000. Planner buyer, it's like 90 some dollars.
Okay, great. So then, I mean, you've got a business similar-ish to an old mentor of mine, Michael Hyatt, and I watched him kind of do a pretty similar model, which I thought was super smart. Which is okay. The core business is the planners. That's a multi-million-dollar a year planner-based business. But then there's also this really good revenue generator and really great really great revenue generator and really great profit generator, which is the coaching side of things. And so
Mhm,
let's write specific niche books that solve specific problems for our target customers. And so that's kind of the model that he took and said, hey, how do I, let's write a book on how to hire a great assistant. Let's write a book on, running great meetings or all those things. And then those feed into coaching clients. And then everything feeds into the planner business. The planner business ascends into the coaching business, right? So if you're
mhm,
just kind of mapping it out on a napkin, that's how you would
mhm,
map it out. But let me look here. So let's say 4 grand just to be safe. So if we're starting with 6 figures, 100K divided by 4 grand. Well, then we need 25 customers. Um, so then I would just reverse engineer from that. So 6-figure launch, how do we get 25 customers? Well, let's get the book in the hands of probably 200 people that could afford to work with you. And let's have 50 of them book sales calls. So roughly 25% or so, if I've got my math right. And then let's see if we can sign up half of them to work with you. And
mhm.
then I would reverse engineer based on that.
Wow. Are those accurate numbers for what you do with your book? If you sell 100 copies, you're expecting about 25% of them, 1 in 4, to schedule a call with your team?
Yeah, it depends. I'm trying to think. Our most this varies wildly based on the medium and the scale. And so
Mhm,
if I were you and I went to all of my past planner buyers and I said, hey, I want to give you this book, I want to give you this book for free. Most books don't come with strings attached. This one does. All I want you to do is leave it or read it and leave a review. And then if you're a fit, we should work together in our coaching program. That's it. And so
mhm,
I'm going to give it to you for free, right? And so that's where I would. And so this is actually something that we back in COVID we did a pretty similar giveaway, and we said, hey, we're going to give away $100,000 in books. And here's why, because we want to help people. And there's no better time to write a book than right now, because you've got the time that you said you haven't had for a really long
mm,
time, right? That's kind of a hook specific to us, right? You could change that. So it's your reason why, right? Like Robert Cialdini says that people are exponentially more likely to do something if you give them a reason why. So they did a study where they were asking people to cut in line in the line to print copies. And they asked people if they could cut in line, and they had, whatever it was, 25% or something of them said yes. Then they asked people to cut in line, and they said, because I'm in a hurry. And it was exponentially more it's compliance. I think it was 80 or 90% said yes. And then they said, all right, well, let's try this. And they said, hey, can I cut in line because I need to print some copies? And which is really dumb when you think about
obvious.
it.
It's like, that's why you're in line. Yeah.
Every single person here is in line because of it. And it was 85% or something. So it was just slightly worse than a legitimate reason was having any reason at all, even if the reason was totally stupid, which it was. And so that's what I've found when we run promos like that, is there is a reason why. You always got to have a reason why, and because your conversion rate goes way up. So in this case, your reason why, hey, I'm committed to taking to helping as many people as possible who have bought my planners with the problem that I solve over in this coaching business, whether you can afford to work with me or not. So that's why I'm giving away $100,000 in copies of my book. And here's the only string attached. I know some of you are going to want to work with me, and if you don't or can't afford to work with me, just leave a review on the book once you read it. That's it. All right. So it's just super simple and straightforward. And so to circle all the way back to your
Yeah.
original question of is that actual numbers? I would say in referral networks and stuff like that, decently so. At scale, definitely not. So we have a free plus shipping funnel that's doing really well for us right now. And gosh, I wish I had the numbers straight in front of me. I want to say we do triage calls. So I want to say it's something like, well, it also depends on whether or not it's with you or whether or not it's your team, right? So there's so many different factors, traffic source, and is it warm or cold? Is it you or is it your team and all the things? But I want to say it's something like 20 or 30% of people who claim the free book a call. Now that's free plus shipping. So that's a little bit higher barrier than just get the free book. If it's just a free like ebook or something like that, then we'll typically see somewhere between 5 to 10%. So then maybe you got to boost your numbers, right? Maybe you got to go, I got to get this in front of 500 or 1,000 or whatever people to kind of trickle down to that number. But that's how I would think about it. It's just kind of reverse engineer to how do I get in front of those people that can pay me.
Yeah, it's really good. Real quick, and then I'll bring this back. That free plus shipping funnel, are you selling the book? So they buy $9.99, they paid the shipping, they get the book free, and then the second part of the funnel is schedule a call with my team. Any other upsells in there? You do audiobook to increase the average cart? Are you selling them some sort of digital course to increase your cart, or is it just book, phone call?
Yeah, it is. I think we have a one-time order bump, and I want to say that is audiobook maybe plus an unreleased chapter or something like that. Or actually, it might be our 24-hour book outline challenge, and as like a $47 cart bump. But then yeah, the main primary mechanism is to go to book a call. We
Yeah,
got a video on our YouTube channel kind of breaking down the whole
yeah.
shipping
All
funnel
right, I'll check
process if
that
you're
out. Yeah.
curious. But
So okay, because what?
that's the end goal though, is to get them to book a call. Now, what I would do for if I were you is I would do the book for free, and then I would do an order bump that is planners, and I would consider even a secondary order bump that is digital product, maybe if you already have one. If you don't, then I would just do the planners as an order bump. And so now all of a sudden, if you can just break even, I mean, that's the holy grail, right? If you can just break
Yeah,
even on that, that's amazing. And then if you can acquire customers on the back end for your coaching business, even better, right? And so what I like to do is on the thank you page, it's hey, thanks for grabbing a copy of this book. You're gonna love it. We're shipping it your way. It'll be there in 2 weeks, roughly. Before you go, you're gonna love this book. What this book can't do is talk to you, customize a plan that you can actually implement. So that's where we come in. And then I'll anti-sell. So I would rather have better calls than just a bunch of calls for my sales team. So hey, this is not for everyone. This is only for the overachievers, the people who are serious, who really want to have success with your book. Well, if that's you, then what we'd love to do is go ahead and schedule a publishing consultation. Yada, yada, yada. It's 45 minutes. We'll talk about your goals for your book, your challenges with your book, your next steps. That's the purpose of this call. If you're a fit, if you qualify to work with us, we'll talk about what that looks like on that call. And so only if you're serious, book a call now. Either way, you're going to love the book. We can't wait to help you with your book. All right. That's kind of my video script or whatever for those thank you pages, to just transition from you just claimed a book to book a call.
yeah. Okay, it's good. All right, well, to bring this back to the six figures, I feel like this helped me get clarity on six figures. It sounds like you might not have to be focusing on marketing to the masses right now. It's kind of like you wrote this book, get it in the hands of 100 people that you know are in your target market, and that might be able to make you hit your six-figure launch, right? If you get it in the 100 hands of people that know you, like you, trust you, or they're just your right fit, good percentage of them, 25 people, those schedule calls, and you've got a $5,000 coaching program, you might be able to hit your goal there. Am I kind of following you right there? Six figures, it's maybe even tapping your warm market or close to you market of your people who are directly in your target
Exactly. Yeah,
customer
I would go
avatar.
to
Okay.
past customers. I would go
Yeah.
to past customers. I would go to existing customers. I would go to close referral network, kind of your close sphere, and use the book as an excuse to get in front of your right fit customers and get on the phone with your right fit customers. And then, depending on your average order value, that's how many clients you need to sign up to hit that six-figure mark.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's super helpful for me. So, all right. So this gets you to the six figures. What do you feel like it takes to get from six figures to seven figures? And maybe this is specifically for a book funnel, or maybe just from business in general. Like, what are some of the hurdles the entrepreneur is going to have to go through to get from a six-figure business to a seven-figure business?
Yeah, I would say let's maybe we start with specifically from books. I would say you need to either do let's talk evergreen and let's talk ongoing. You either need to
Okay.
do a massive one-off promo, which you can certainly do. I mean, that's very achievable.
What would
Uh,
be an example
or
of a massive one-off preview promo? Like, what do you mean by that?
yeah, massive one-off promo could be you do a huge book launch and the book
Okay.
launch is directly tied into the business. A massive one-off promo could be you use the book to lead into a virtual event. And then that virtual event, you sell something high ticket. A massive one-off promo could be a virtual book tour and you go on dozens of podcasts. It could be a virtual summit. I mean, it's just a bunch of different
So it's
kind
a
of
big okay, something to build energy around. It's
yes.
something to
It's a
it's a one-time
it's a
push. You don't have
concentrated yeah, yeah, one-time push, concentrated launch promo.
okay. Okay. I like it. So that's key first thing to focus on, getting to seven figures, build some energy around a promo.
Yeah, I mean, that is the cheat code or the fast path, but
Hmm.
then revenue can be very fleeting, right? You might
Mm.
hit 7 figures from that thing, which is really hard to do. I don't wanna make it sound like it's easier than it actually is. It's difficult and it takes a lot of time, energy, and effort to do it and to do it well, but it's very possible. But then you probably wanna have an ongoing revenue stream, right? So then I would just think about the way I think about it is, what are my funnels that are already working where I can integrate this book? And make them convert even better so I can decrease my cost per lead or my cost per acquisition or whatever else. I can improve my conversion rates, my upsell rates, all that. So for you, obviously having a very successful planner business, I would say, hey, what within this, like where is this already working? And I can just tack on this existing book as either an upsell, as a bonus over deliver, as something to ascend planner buyers into coaching customers. Like that would be the way that I would think about it is, I don't want to screw up this thing that's already working, which is you probably have already figured out how to profitably acquire customers for the planner business. So I might tweak some things. I might say, hey, if you spend over X amount, you'll get a book for free. Or I might, use it to change some of the core economics of what you're already doing, which is, you know, the levers. It's either decreasing your cost to acquire a customer, increasing your average order value, or increasing your lifetime value. Right. And so those are kind of your core levers that makes the core planner business run better and more successful. But then where the real money is, I would imagine, is in upsells into the coaching business. And so how do I use this to ascend? And uh, on the back end with people who are already doing business with you over here, or as a front end acquisition channel for people just specifically to the coaching business, right? So maybe that's a
Mm.
VSL funnel and there's a book attached to it. Maybe it's a free plus shipping funnel and the book is the core piece of that. Or maybe you start cranking some Amazon ads, and if you can figure out how to do that and say, hey, well, I'm gonna get Amazon ads to if I can just get break even book buyers, well, then I'll do that all day long.
Hmm.
And because I know that they're gonna come into my ecosystem and into my world. And so just a bunch of kind of things like that I would think about because the whole point is to build evergreen, repeatable customer acquisition to where, okay, how do we get whatever it is, let's call it 10 to 20 clients a month now at that 5 grand price point. So now we're getting anywhere from, 50 to 100 grand a month in clients. Well, 83 grand a month is, you know, 83, 33333 is what you need to do to get
Mhm.
to $1 million a year. So then, okay, how do we start doing that to where our funnels are bringing in, 10 to 20 coaching clients a month? Or maybe I increase my average order value and say, well, let's raise our prices on that so that we don't have to acquire as many customers. Or, you can there's a bunch of ways to kind of uh, tinker with that to make that acquisition model more scalable and more profitable.
Mhm. Okay. All right, that's good because kind of what I'm hearing you say there is you gotta one figure out how to grow your list for free. Like you got to get some sort of funnel going where you can advertise, get somebody on your email list or get their contact information in break even, right? And that's going to be a big driver because now you can market yourself, and you're not just digging yourself into a hole to try and get back out of. It's like nope, it's just growing your audience, and now you can pitch these people and put them into the funnel. Also, I love the idea of giving your existing customers the book. Like, I'm thinking, and I don't know if you guys have experimented with this, uh, like somebody buys a planner, just over deliver, give them a free
Yeah,
digital
exactly.
copy of my book. Or I'm thinking people who maybe have signed up for webinars of mine in the past that were around this topic, whether they showed up or not showed up, doesn't matter. If they kind of raised their hand and said, I'm interested in this, I should just email those people, have a silly reason. Hey, we're about to have another kid. I'm giving away 100 books. There's no connection,
Yeah,
but that's all
totally,
right.
totally. Yeah,
Here's some books, but if 10 of them read the book and I can get 2 of them on the call and now they've experienced my planner, workshop, the
yeah.
book, it's like they're a hot customer to get on the phone with. Are those some of the things I'm picking up, like follow-up tool, just over deliver?
Yes. I love the over deliver piece,
Mhm,
and I even love that we're having another kid, reason why, 'cause I mean, it's just so interesting and relatable, and you can tie in anything. We're about to have another kid, it's got me all up in my feels, and I'm thinking about how the part of the reason I wrote this book is because it's the stuff that I wanted my kids to know, and it's the stuff that
mhm,
I had to learn the hard way on the nights and weekends and all that stuff, and if we're being honest, it's probably the stuff that your kids wish that you would know so that you could spend more time with them, so that you could be more successful in your it's just uh, it's a reason why hook that you can then I'm copywriting straight to them. So because of
um,
this, between now and the due date, we're giving away X thousand copies. And if the kid comes early, we're cutting it off then. So get your book now. It's just something kind of
yeah,
funny and it's a reason why for that. And so I love the way you're thinking with that, and I love the over deliver. And I would also integrate that with your the review sweeper that I talk about in my book. And because you've got the volume of customers, so then you could use that to help with the volume of reviews. So if they do download the book, you drop them into the review sweeper. So basically, if they download the book for free or any asset related to that book, that would signal that they've experienced the book. I'm dropping them in the review sweeper, and so that I'm asking them for a review. And so now it's just a way to just continue sweeping in dozens of reviews a month, maybe more than that, which will help your long-term sales on the book on Amazon.
yeah, yeah, the review sweeper has been good, and for people listening, Chandler, recommended me set up this it's just an automated email sequence after somebody gets my book that follows up with them a few times and says, "Hey, what are you thinking of the book?" and encourages them to leave a review. Uh, alright, so as we're talking about this, I feel like you've been mentioning paid ads as a driver, free plus shipping funnel, Amazon ads. Do you feel like in this seven-figure phase, is paid ads really somewhere to be focusing on, or should they be trying to do some of the non-paid ads, podcast guesting, uh, growing a TikTok following, or do you feel like, look, if you're really trying to grow this thing, just dial in your paid ads. It's an easy lever to pull on once you have it figured out.
Mm. Well, I guess backing up, there's 2 types of marketing. There's earned media and then there's paid media. And so earned media is sweat equity to get someone to buy a thing. That's creating content, that's partnerships and relationships, that's referrals, that's anything in the bucket of you spend your time to get customers. Then there's paid media, and that's where you spend dollars to get customers. That could be paid ads, like you mentioned, that could be affiliates, that could be a bunch of different forms of ads or
Mhm.
paying for acquisition. And I think what's interesting about that is the hottest prospects come from the warmest audiences, which the warmest audiences are typically earned. And the
Mhm,
coldest prospects come from the coldest audiences, which is typically paid. So if you can crack it, paid is great, but it is really, really, really freaking hard. And you got to have all of your messaging dialed in, your offer dialed in, your everything dialed in to do it profitably at scale. So I think sometimes when people jump straight to paid ads and paid acquisition, they just light a ton of money on fire.
mhm,
And sometimes even worse, they light a little bit of money on fire and then they quit because they don't realize that was what was gonna happen. And I love the Perry
mhm,
Marshall quote. He says, "Your first 10 grand that you spend on ads is really just tuition."
mm,
And I think he had a lower number, maybe it's your first $1,000 or whatever, but
yeah,
it's just tuition to start learning the skill set. And so all that to say, I think you probably can get to six figures. Well, there's a bunch of ways to skin it, right? I've never been much of a social media guy. We're building out a media team and a media company route within our company right now, and that's a big long-term bet that we're placing. Simultaneously, you know, everyone else in our space is social. I mean, they get all their
mhm,
customers from there, or vice versa. We've never been that good at paid ads. Now we're starting to get a little bit better, but everyone in our space is paid ads. And so I say that to say the two main ways that most people in our space grow, we have either largely ignored or sucked at them for years.
mhm.
And we just found a different path. We did content and SEO and partnerships. And so there's a million ways to skin it. There's no one size fits all. Play to your strengths. Where do you already have momentum? What are you already good at? Double down on those two things, and then try to start stacking customer acquisition channels, but don't try to do them all at once.
Yeah. And I think that's good. It's maybe not right now. The question isn't should I do paid or the sweat equity. It's more sequential. Maybe start with the sweat equity, experiment, dial in your funnel something somewhat there so you have a proven concept and then you can start throwing money at it. At least now you know it somewhat works before you light money on fire like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, paid is way more scalable, but it's significantly harder to crack. So if you can get paid to work 100% all day long, scale it.
Yeah. Okay. From this bridge of going from 6 to 7 figures, what were some other, like, entrepreneurial skills did you have to learn? Because I have to imagine at this point, learning how to market's important, probably learning to grow a team, even if it's a small one, is a skill. Was that relevant to you, or what are some skills you had to take on to become a seven-figure entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, you need good people and you need good process. You can kind of muscle your way to seven figures. But that's when it starts to break. I mean, you start getting in
Okay.
that 2 to 5 million a year. In my opinion, that's when you start to really run into some problems that you can't just surpass in heroic effort. Now, all you need
Mhm,
is a handful of really good skills, and there are no one size fits all. So if you can run massive promotions, that was kind of my skill set. Well, then that was a cheat code. I mean, I was able to run these big launches that we would do six figures from, and then I just was good with relationships and good with partnership stuff. And so I would just pull some people together. And, next thing we know, we're doing this massive summit and it's got all of these people in our industry that I should have never said yes to me, but just through dogged determination and, relentless harassment, basically, they eventually said yes and came onto this thing. And that was my thing. Now, there's other people
mhm,
who are really good at social media and that's their thing, and they've blown up.
mhm,
There's some people who are super nerdy and just get in the lab with ads, and they
mhm,
just tinker with that, and they know how to work Facebook Ads Manager, and then boom, they're scaling, and they don't have any of those other gifts that I have. And so that's why I think it's really encouraging is just find your strengths, find your gifts, play to those strengths, and all you need is one or two to kind of get some initial momentum, but no, you got to focus on the ones that are disproportionate. And so just tinkering with a product that no one's buying, that ain't gonna do it, right? You could have the best
mhm,
product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, it might as well not exist. And so you gotta start learning. That's what we always say. I mean, you've heard me probably talk about this a ton of times. You gotta become friends with Sam, sales and marketing. And so you've got to learn some customer acquisition mechanism, and that is sales and marketing. And if you are not willing to or not able to do that, well, then just pack it up. I mean, go get a
Mm.
job, go work for somebody else. You're not going to get seven figures, or just be content at six figures and say, "Hey, I'm just not going to scale beyond this." And that's not meant to be derogative. That's just it's but just if you can't get good at one of those things, it's not going to happen. And you're going to think that I'll just pay someone else or I'll just hire someone else or that, hey, that's not what I'm good at. It just, you got to learn that skill set. And you can, if you do, you can muscle your way to seven figures, but then things start to break.
Yeah. So, okay, because let's talk about that. Because you brought up like 2 to 3 million. So you're getting to the place you're big enough you can't be small anymore, but you're not big enough to be big. Right now, you're starting to like have employees and payroll and insurance, but your revenue isn't growing in proportion. I'm guessing. So it's like you need a big team, but you don't have the big enough revenue to afford the big team. Is that kind of what started to happen to you around 2 to 3 million? And how'd you break through it? Get to 10 million as quickly
Yeah.
as you can, or yeah, talk to me about what starts to break down once you get to 2 3 million.
Well, a lot of businesses have Peter Pan syndrome. They never want to grow up. And it's the business owner that actually has Peter Pan syndrome because they are not willing to do the work required to grow their business up or to grow themselves up. So they fly by the seat of their pants, and they just everything's held together with duct tape and bubble gum. And so there's on my personal YouTube channel, I call we've got some videos around how to scale to eight figures, and I call it the eight-figure profit bridge. We just did this whole series, and it's the 5 Ps of getting to eight figures. So first, you need paying customers. If you don't have paying customers, you don't have a business. You have a business idea. Now, you probably have that already, though, because you have to have that to get to six figures. And you definitely have to have that to get to seven figures. Then you need, and so we're kind of constructing a bridge here, right? So the paying customers, that's the columns, right? And then your infrastructure, that is product market fit. So to get to seven figures, you need product market fit, which basically says, if I tell you, if I if I follow the 4 Ps, sorry, a lot of Ps going on here. These are different ones. But if I think about person, pain, promise, price, if I'm speaking to a person who has the pain that I help solve, and I present the promise for a reasonable price, they should say yes more often than not. If not, I probably don't have product market fit. So you got to have those two things. Those are prerequisites. You probably already have those, or at least close to it if you're getting to seven figures. Then you need to make sure that you're profitable. So this is where you really kind of, I think a lot of business owners that make this mistake, you get to seven figures, you think, I'm a millionaire. And no, you probably aren't even 100,000-aire.
Mm.
Because that's the dirty secret that most people don't tell you is a seven-figure business doesn't mean seven figures in your bank account. It means that you're probably barely making six figures, if that at all. And so this is where you really got to kind of get back to first principles and say, how does this business make money? And this business needs to be profitable. And so, all right, well, then now I got to make sure that my profit engine, there's a bunch of stuff to unpack there, but then my profit engine is good. And then once those three things are good, well, then now I got to add great people and great process. And that's what it takes to get to eight figures is those 5 things. And the people and the process is a constant iteration. And I mean, all of it's a constant, innovation and iteration and just kind of continuously tinkering with it to make the machine grow faster. But that's what it takes in my experience.
Yeah, that's really good. Paying customers, product market fit. It's got to be profitable. People, process. Huh, that's interesting. So, 7 figures. You feel like most people aren't even making 100 grand, or maybe that's not fair because I feel like no, just things
No,
start
I
to
mean, I
grow.
really, I really don't. I mean, I think we're spoiled in our little internet world because the margins are so dang high, especially in coaching and high ticket sales. Your margins are insane. But I mean, regular businesses, it's 5 to 15% is their profit margin. That's a good business, is 10 to
Yeah.
15%. Maybe 5% if you're a little more lean. And so if you think about that, okay, well, you're running a seven-figure business, so you're running, let's call it $1 million a year business. Well, your margins are 5 to 15%. You're making $50 to $150,000 a year on that $1 million, and especially if
Mhm.
you're early on, you're extremely inefficient. And so I remember, gosh, one of the first years we were in business, I want to say it was 1.1, 1.3, and it was 70 something thousand dollars in profit. and I didn't even know if I
Mhm.
was paying myself a salary at that point. And so maybe I was, maybe it's like 30 grand a year or something. And so, I mean, yeah, that's it's I'll never forget being at a conference and this guy said, I want to say it was a staggering stat. It was 80 or 90% of people who make more than a quarter million a year work in corporate. They're not entrepreneurs. And so when you think about people who earn, now there's outliers. So there's a ton of entrepreneurs that don't make any money, and then there's a handful of entrepreneurs that make crazy money. And that's the part that we talk about is those handful, not, I mean, you're good. If you want good odds at making good money, just go work in corporate. I mean,
Yeah.
climb the corporate ladder, your likelihood of earning a quarter million a year is way, 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 way higher than getting in business for
Mm.
yourself. So if you're going to get in business for yourself, you better love it and you better have some grit.
Yeah. Yeah. Dang. Well, it goes back to what you mentioned earlier. You got to get to 10 million as quickly as you can. Uh, so you start making money.
It's just that
So
easy. It's
biggest
that
takeaway.
easy.
Yeah. Uh, all right. So I've got one more question, and it's kind of like big question, but maybe we can hit this in the last couple minutes. So I feel like these kind of like the strategic side of going from 0 to 7, 8 figures, 8 figures. I imagine you're running into these mental limiting beliefs at different phases. And I don't know if that was the case for you. And if so, were there any like big limiting beliefs you had to overcome to get through to the next level that come to mind?
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of them at all different parts of the journey. There's still today. I mean, I think early on, it was trying to prove myself and thinking that other people knew the answers that I didn't know, and everyone around me was going faster than I was. And so it was comparison and then cutting corners as a result, which was a huge mistake. And I had to course correct that because I just saw other people getting ahead and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's how you do it. And then, I lost myself in that process. So I think there was that. I think gosh, other limiting beliefs, just thinking bigger. I don't know. I mean, it's not really a sexy answer.
Mhm.
So many times where I've just had to think bigger, including now, of your biggest strengths become your fatal weaknesses in your business. And a lot of times, if you as a founder, you're going to build an organization where the biggest weakness of the organization is your biggest personal strength as a founder because you're just good at it. So the company doesn't have to be good at it because you're good at it. And so for me, some of that is operations. I'm just very operational. So that is one of my biggest strengths, but then it's become the company's biggest weakness in some ways, but really mostly just my biggest weakness because I am so overly involved in that stuff, which is to the detriment of the company's success and my own success. And so that's where I've had to just say, you have all these weird self-worth stuff where you want to feel busy, you want to feel productive. And I've just had to kind of I don't know, shed some of those things, start thinking bigger, start getting out of the minutia. And
Mhm.
gosh, those are just some that come to mind,
Those are
but
really good.
I
Yeah.
could come up with a laundry list of other ones.
I mean, I feel like I can relate to when I was starting my business, I was like on a mission to prove myself. And that did not lead to profits, turns out, because I was just trying to do these like big things, thinking that somebody else was watching and nobody else cared what I
Yeah.
was bringing in revenue, but I was just spending money on ads and things that it's like, what am I doing here? It was just to prove something to myself, and so yeah, I think that's a big one, and yeah, that's a really interesting thing you brought up with your strengths. That becomes a weakness. Yeah, that's good. Well, I know I'm running out of time here, so if people are listening to this and they want more Chandler, they want to learn about you, learn about your business, where should they go?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. So, free content. We've got content that comes out every week on the selfpublishing.com YouTube channel and the Chandler Boldt YouTube channel. You can go subscribe there. And we've got short form on Instagram for both. I just created my first Instagram, believe it or not. It's, like 8 months ago or 6 months ago or something. So you can follow me over there. And then if you want book resources, you can go to publishedbook.com/audio. You can get the audiobook for free there. Or if you want to book a call with my team, go to selfpublishing.com/Jason We create a link for you guys, and that's where you can go book a call directly with my team to chat about your book, your goals, challenges, put together a plan, and who knows, maybe you'd be like Jason, end up working with us, and we can help. We'd love to work with more Jasons, like I said at the beginning.
It's great. And I want to say, for people listening to this, his book was super helpful for me. Then I started listening to his content, and I feel like that gave me all the motivation I needed to push through the ups and the downs of writing a book and then learning how to launch it and grow a business. So Chandler, thanks for all the work you put in for your content, and thanks for coming on here today.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much for listening to this episode and making this show possible. If you're serious about launching your own dream-driven business idea, it's time to take the next step. I created a free training that'll walk you step by step through the process to discover your perfect business idea, validate that it's a winner, and launch it this year. You can access that free training at goalcrazy.com/free training. And if you want more content like this, be sure to subscribe below. I'll see you in the next episode.